Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Presman. I'm your host. This is, without question, the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Every day, we give out tons of betting information. Watch this show regularly. Make more money, and we all want that. We got a great lineup today. We're going to start the show with Ralph Michaels. We're going to do a deep dive into the national championship game. Ohio State is in that game, and I think Ralph likes that team. We'll find out soon. After that, we got Andy Lang, a whole lot of prop bets coming your way, and we're going to end the show with Gianni the Greek. Let's get this started. Let's get it started now. What's up, Ralph Michaels? As you can tell, I'm going golfing as soon as this show ends. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. Just so you guys know, Prez already called me twice in the last 3 days saying, why the hell is Florida so cold? Like it's my fault that he came down during a full week to enjoy the Florida weather.
Yeah, dude. You know what? When Canadians come to Florida, we expect some heat. It's okay today. It's not bad today. It's acceptable. And I am golfing with my dad, but we're only playing 9 holes, which I'm told is an 80-year-old version of 18 holes. So I will honor my dad's 9-hole request. Ralph Michaels, let's get into some college football. I mean, look, Monday, it's still a ways away. It's a big game. We're going to talk about it lots, but we need to hear your take on this. We have Ohio State now at -8. Ralph, I can't tell you how often a game moves from -6 to -8, but I can tell you it's almost never. Now we've got that, and a -8.5 at DraftKings. The amount of money that must be coming in on Ohio State is legendary. And the total here, 46.5. What do we do? I mean, if we're playing Ohio State, we have missed the best number. Where do we go?
Prez, not really. Some places opened Ohio State 9.5 right after the game. And if you looked at the look-ahead line last week, the look-ahead line was actually 8.5.
Yeah, I totally messed that up. Totally messed that up. It was -6 in the last. It was -6 in the last game. Total brain cramp on my part, and I even had them in their last game. So I'm just going to shut up now, Ralph.
We all make mistakes, but again, this was an 8.5 line. You could have bet 8.5 prior to the games being played, and you see it open 9.5, but actually came down to 8. So there are a lot of Irish fans, and why not? With their ATS record, they have only failed to cover 2 games this year. They're one of the best ATS teams to ever make it this far in the playoffs. But when I break down this game, to me, Notre Dame has to play the perfect game to win. Ohio State does not have to play the perfect game. That's immense pressure on Notre Dame and much less pressure on Ohio State. And let me break down some points for that. The Irish have played a weak schedule. It's number 60. It's one of the worst Power 5 schedules there are. But what they've done is had an elite defense. They have an elite pass rush defense. They have an elite pass coverage defense. And therefore, their rush defense has been excellent. Well, why does that correlate? Because no one plays more man-to-man coverage in the FBS or the Power 4 teams than Notre Dame do. They have the number 2 passer rating playing man-to-man. They're without one of their best cornerbacks, but they still have 4 cornerbacks that can cover. Well, when you play man-to-man, that means you have an extra safety, you have an extra linebacker, you do not need to play zone coverage, and therefore your rush defense is extremely good. I don't think the Irish are good enough to play man-to-man against Jeremiah Smith and Abuke and Carnell Tate and a great tight end and 2 very good running backs that both pass catch very well. When I also look at the Irish, they are number 1 in takeaways. They have been awesome on turnovers this season. And in fact, the only 2 games they did not win or tie the turnover battle was their upset loss against Northern Illinois, where they were -2 and lost that game. And they were -1 against Penn State. But when you look at points over turnover, they actually are on the plus side because of that boneheaded interception late in the game which allowed Notre Dame to kick that field goal in the last second and win that game. When I look at the Irish's takeaways, you can be a good takeaway team because your cornerbacks are ball hawks, or you could be a good takeaway team because you force a lot of fumbles. But fumbles are really a 50-50 prop. When you have to turn the ball over, you can be an elite defense and get a lot of turnovers. But Penn State has had 16 fumble recoveries. When you have that many fumble recoveries, there's a lot of good fortune in your path to be able to get that. Ohio State was only +4 turnovers on the year. They were minus turnovers in 4 games, and they've won it all. So they can make a mistake and still rebound. They were minus turnovers against Penn State on the road. They won the game. They were minus one turnover against Tennessee. It did not fathom. They crushed them in that game. So when I look at the Ohio State offense versus the Irish defense, the numbers may say it's close, but to me, it's Ohio State. Look at Ohio State defense versus the Penn State offense. We know Riley Leonard's going to run the ball a lot. I'm going to have a prop for you about him in just 1 minute. We know they have 2 good running backs. But when Ohio State does not have to blitz, they have 2 NFL defensive ends. They have 3 NFL caliber players on their 4 D lines. They don't blitz very often, yet they had 51 sacks this year. That is number 3 in the country. When you have an Ohio State team that can only rush 4, what does that mean? Well, that means you're allowed to have a linebacker become a spy on Riley Leonard, which is going to have him make some decisions and not nearly run as much as he had. I like Ohio State. I lean with the under. But for best bets, I want to give you 2 props here. Sorry, Andy, if I'm stepping on your toes. But number 1 is Riley Leonard under 35.5 rush yards. Listen, he had a big game last game rushing the ball for 75 or 80 yards. But with that spy, I don't think he gets any big runs. And I think that's a great under. And the other, because the Irish play so much man-to-man and they're going to double Jeremiah Smith for sure. They're going to try to double Ibuka. That's going to leave Carnell Tate wide open. Carnell Tate had a great game last time. Why? Because their last opponent tried to take those 2 wide receivers out of the passing game. Versus Texas and, versus Oregon and Tennessee, those 2 teams played zone. And what happened? Ibuka and Smith had 23 receptions. The 4 games prior to that, where teams were playing more man-to-man, Carnell Tate had 20 receptions over 4 games. This over-under is only 3.5, and it's plus money. You're plus 124. So best bet, Riley Leonard under 35.5 rush yards, and Carnell Tate over 3.5 receptions at plus $120.
Ralph Michaels joining us. Well, that was a deep dive into that game, to say the least. And listen, I'm going to give you sort of my take, Ralph, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. I like Ohio State first half, and if they are covering by more than 2 scores, I like Ohio State second half as well. If they are not covering, I like Ohio State second half as well also. And my take on this is that I think Notre Dame will be in a lot of trouble if they have to go one-dimensional. And I think that's ultimately where this game could really get away from them. I think if Ohio State goes up early and they go up by 13, 17 points and they put Notre Dame into a one-dimensional offense, I think this game could be a blowout. Any thoughts on that?
Can't agree more. Again, you're putting a process out there. So, but I have a question for you, Prez, because you said if Ohio State is leading, I like them second half. If they're winning big, I like them second half. So I have never made a second half bet before a game starts. Would you think about making a second half bet on Ohio State now, pregame, which some casinos allow? Okay, no, I would just want to make sure that's
if they're too far ahead, we'll miss value there. I want them ahead by 2 scores, not 4. And also we have to see what's going on. I mean, there are injury situations that happen. You know, it's not like we don't read games wrong. And that's an important thing to mention to the clients out there. I mean, I had the under last night in the Utah-Montreal Canadiens game, I read it wrong. We're going to read games wrong. I'm not going to put 5 bets down on one game now. I could just be completely off on the entire read and cost myself too much in my bankroll. So I'm looking now at saying, let's go with Ohio State first half and sort of take it from there. Ralph Michaels joining us, one of the best handicappers around and a better guy. We're going to talk some college basketball. Let's take apart this Kansas Iowa State game. And, you know, right off the bat, I mean, look, both teams are phenomenal. 12-3 KU, 14-1 Iowa State. Iowa State 8-2 ATS in their last 10. Kansas 7-3 ATS in their last 10. But Ralph, what stands out to me about these two teams is KU is 1-14 to the under. So clearly there's been a lot of value in betting the under in their games. What do we do in this one tonight?
Prez, I actually used Kansas under, so thanks for taking away some of my fire there by sharing that record.
Whoops.
You know, they're off to win against Cincinnati, and that game was 54-40. That's not a halftime score, folks. 54-40 was that score against Cincinnati. Prez, you had mentioned the 1-14 over-under record for Kansas. 13 straight unders. And it's important to know when you're looking at ATS streaks or over-under streaks, if your average margin of cover is a point or two, there is much randomness in there. It's basically flipping a coin. They make the last shot, they don't. Kansas's last 13 games that have all gone under have gone under by 12 points per game. That's a massive number. You look at Iowa State at home. They may be the best team in college basketball right now. I'd had them nowhere near being this good. They're 14-1. Their only loss to Auburn. Auburn's the number 1 team in the country right now, and that was by 2 points in a neutral setting. This year, Iowa State at home, though, I'm going to look at the total here, Prez. So thank you for giving me that start until my promo. Kansas is 2-7 over under at home. But when you throw out a couple games as a favorite of 36 points or more, they're 0-6 over under at home, and they have failed to cover by 10.7 points per game. Couple other things I like about this Iowa State team. 5 players average double digits. What does that mean? Well, when you try to scheme against Ohio State, you can't try to stop one player. You can't try to stop 2 players. If all 5 starters are legitimate scorers, that gives you a lot of leeway where you don't need one player to get hot. The player that catches fire that game can lead the team to victory. By the way, Kansas only has 2 players that average double digits. So they are quite young. They're an experienced team. They're very old, but again, they do have some newness to them with some new players. So I look at this and I say, it's simple for me. I am going to go under the total. I like under first half even a little bit more, and I may actually load this as a client release. I haven't finished my final process of terminating them. And someone I talked to last night said, oh my God, you don't see Kansas as a dog very often. There's incredible value taking the Jayhawks as a dog. Well, let me quantify it. As a conference underdog since 2021, Kansas 3-9 straight up, only 4-7 against the spread. So again, you think there's good value for Kansas being an underdog in the Big 12, a conference they've dominated over the last decade, but it hasn't come to fruition. So when they are a legitimate dog, there's a reason they're a dog. And by the way, when Kansas is a Big 12 dog, their last 11 games, 3 overs, 11 unders. All signs point to the under here again.
Right. Ralph Michaels. Ralph, we got one more game to discuss. We also have Andy Lang coming on with some prop bets. He's got some NFL prop bets as well coming up for us. We got Gianni the Greek too. So stay with us all the way to the end. Before we get into the Penn State, Michigan State game, what do you have to promote for our clients?
Well, you know, I had a 5% NFL teaser, which just came down because there's a line move. So take a look. I'm number 2 in profit the last 30 days. It's been an incredible run. I do have a college basketball 4% best bet up and available now. And I do want to sincerely thank everyone that was on board for my $5 5% winner last night on the Kentucky Wildcats. Again, it's been a great 6 weeks. Just looking to continue that stretch.
Well, you certainly deserve it. Ralph, real fascinating game between Penn State and Michigan State. And the reason is this Penn State team. Look, they won 4 in a row, but you go through their strength of schedule, Drexel, Northwestern, then they hit some real teams, Indiana, Illinois, Oregon. They lose all 3 games. They're plus 11.5 against Michigan State tonight, but 2 of those 3 they kept inside of that number. Man, they almost beat Oregon. They lost by 1 point. They got annihilated by Illinois, and they kept it within 6 against Indiana. This Michigan State team absolutely rolling right now. They've won 9 games in a row. ATS-wise, 8-1 over that time period. And they are blowing teams out along the way. Is 11.5 too short a number here for this Michigan State team?
It's not, because while Michigan State has a regular Izzo type defense, they're number 11 in Ken Palm ratings. Their offense is surprisingly good at number 25, but they still have some young players on their team. You have a freshman point guard. You have a freshman shooting guard. You have a sophomore power forward. And to me, I can't lay this many points with Michigan State, because when you see they're a big favorite, they don't extend the lead. They don't look to blow people out. But I also can't get to the Penn State side. Why? You mentioned the Oregon 1-point loss on Sunday. You mentioned the Indiana game where they lost by 6, but that was at home. You look at their true home games, they're fine. When they play in the RAC, they have no problems. Their only road game in that 3-game stretch that they lost was Illinois, and guess what? They lost by 39. When Penn State played at Rutgers, they lost on the road. When they played Clemson, it was a neutral game. So Penn State has 2 wins this season from a top 130 team. One was home against Purdue. One was home against Northwestern. That's enough for me to not back Penn State. But as I said, I don't want to get to the Michigan State side as a double-digit Big Ten favorite. With that said, I'm going to go to another under here as well. Penn State 0-3 ATS on the way. We talked about that. But when they are away from home playing a road or neutral game, they are 0-6 over under. All 6 games have gone under the total. Michigan State at home, 8-0 straight up, 5-3 against the spread, 2-6 over under. But when you look at Michigan State's last 5 games at home, 5 unders, no overs, and they've held those foes to 62.4%. So I'm going to split my best bet here. I'm going to say I like the game under the total, and I'm going to say I like the Penn State team total under the total, figuring Michigan will hold them into the high 50s. Penn State has pressed the tempo a little bit, but you got to remember, when you've only played 2 true home games and you're looking at Ken Palm's tempo ratings, you have to justify, is that a legitimate rating? Or were they very fast-paced at home against very weak defenses, which is 100% different than playing fast tempo on the road against an elite defense, which I don't think they do. So that's where tempos are different when you start this conference season. This is one situation that I expect Penn State in conference tempo to be much closer in the 150s to 180 numbers, middle of the road, when we get into the conference schedule a few more weeks.
What a segment. Wow, Ralph, that was an absolute ton of information. Thanks for doing this for us. I love having you on. We'll see you next week. Ralph Michaels, everybody. Andy Lang joining us. We're going to keep this show moving along. And Andy, listen, you told an epic story yesterday about your overdose situation that happened on Friday night. One of our listeners was kind enough to put up in the comment section, how dare we laugh about overdosing? How dare we
I saw
find
that.
humor? How dare we find humor in tragedy? I mean, what are we, the 8 millionth person in the world that has found humor in tragedy? Terrible, shocking. He pointed out that 100,000 people die from overdoses a year in America alone. And you and I have the goal to find humor in that, Andy.
Well,
What's your
well, my take is
what
we
did
were making
what did Dan say?
Yeah, Dave, we
I said
can't,
you
we
also
can't hear
can't overdose from weed, to be fair.
Yeah.
My takeaway is we were making fun of ourselves, not people that have actually died.
Could you
we
imagine?
We were poking fun at your epic story and my story. We were poking fun at ourselves. It wasn't directed at anybody else. And
that's not how I would respond. I would respond Cushman Tochas, for those people who know what that means. Then I would respond with one of these. Then I would respond with an upside down one of those. Then I would respond with, how miserable a human being are you that you think humor is not found in tragedy? That's literally where humor lives. Anyway.
I would also say that I got a ton more comments saying how funny our segment was yesterday. So I would also like to thank everybody that reached out and said that was like one of the funniest segments we've ever done. Somebody on Twitter reached out and said, I've had that talk with God myself a couple times.
Oh, yeah. I will never drink tequila again. My daughter has my 21-year-old has that chat on a weekly basis, specifically about tequila. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, take a second out of your day, hit that thumbs up button, please. Really appreciate it. Super, super important. Hundreds of you are watching this show live right now. Maybe 15% of you hit that like button. Guys, come on. It's all we ask. Just, you don't want to buy our plays, don't buy our plays. You want to call us idiots, call us idiots. Just hit the like button, please. Okay, Andy, you've got an NFL prop bet for us. Let's hear it.
Yeah, this was one that was going great in the regular season until he got hurt. But David Montgomery is listed as a full participant in practice.
Yeah.
And I think the books are a little gun shy on his receiving yards. I'll happily take over 14 and a half receiving yards. Last 7 games that he played, he went for 20 or more receiving yards. And Washington gives up over 23 receiving yards to running backs. Fresh legs, if he's 100% healthy, you better believe they're going to try and get him in open space. So Jahmyr Gibbs has been doing a great job, but you know how much the Lions love David Montgomery. And I think most people picture Montgomery on the goal line or, third and short. He's been dynamite out of the backfield. I expect them to go back to him again. So I was very, very happy to see he was off the injury report. Full participant. I'll take his over receiving yards.
Yeah, and dude, I mean, he's one wheel away, right? I mean, he's Mr. Wheel Route. They run it all the time, especially to the right side. And one catch. With that said, Andy, and I want to speak about that real quick, have the Jahmyr Gibbs props come down low enough to jump there? Because this guy is all freaking world, and we really don't know how injured or not injured David Montgomery is, and I don't see how they don't just keep pounding Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, Gibbs has taken a big workload. The last few weeks, I look at it the other way. I look at the Lions going, sweet, we get this big, strong running back with fresh legs. I know he's coming off an injury, but you go to a full participant in practice. To me, that's the team saying we're good to go. Yeah. And a lot of times you see these guys coming off of injury and it's just like, oh, wow, they're healed up. Because not only was he able to heal off the MCL injury, but he just got a break from wear and tear over the course of a long season. I mean, this set up absolutely perfect for David Montgomery. I'll look at the Gibbs rushing props here. I mean, 81 yards for Gibbs on rushing.
Too
David
high.
Montgomery's
Go under.
45.
Under.
Yeah,
Under.
yeah. I'm just happy to get David Montgomery receiving props. That was a big money maker to end the regular season. So I'm happy to have that back in my life.
Andy Lang. Andy, let's keep moving, brother. 2 NBA prop bets. Let's hear both of them.
Yeah, we'll go to the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll take Jaden McDaniels to have over 4.5 rebounds, gone over in 9 out of 11 games, flown over in 6 out of the last 7 home games. They're home against a Golden State Warriors team that this is their 4th straight road game, and they've been missing a lot of shots. There's going to be a lot of rebounding opportunities, and he's averaging almost 9 rebound chances per game in the last 20. So I really like Jaden McDaniels to go over his rebounds. And then Stephon Castle, a really good draft pick by San Antonio Spurs. He's going to be really good, especially with Wemby. I think that's a duo that's going to be there for quite a few years. But I'm taking his under 1.5 made threes. He's just hit a wall. Under in 13 straight games. He's only averaging 2.8 3-point attempts in the last 10 games, and he's only shooting 22.5% in those games. Whereas a lot of times we see with these rookies, especially in the NBA, they get tired once they get to the middle of the season. This is a long, grueling
Yeah. We hear that all the
rookies.
time. Yep.
Yeah, and so this is a perfect example. This guy's gone under his made threes 13 straight games. Memphis is also the 5th best team defending threes. So Castle, I think they're eventually going to have to lower this to half a 3-pointer. So I'll take the under 1.5 tonight.
Yeah. And it's a great point. And we hear when rookies do talk about it, and some do, they do mention, I mean, as we get into February, March, these guys are exhausted. Andy, you got an Australian Open update, and then we've got to get on with Gianni.
Guess who won 2-0 last night, Prez? Our girl, Sabalenka. Just rinse and repeat. I will tell you this, though. It was close. The second set was very close. We're probably not going to play her for the rest of the tournament 2-0 because we hit in the first couple rounds, and that's kind of the way that we play that. So I'm telling you, we are not going to be playing her to win 2-0. Her opponent was really good defending Sabalenka's serve. So just beware, we're not putting that in any more parlays. We had a big upset last night. Number 5 women's player Zhang got beat 2-0. Her opponent, you would have loved it. Her opponent kept stalling, got in her head, completely flummoxed her, and lost to a player Zhang had no business losing to. So Djokovic dropped a set again, which sets up beautifully for a free play in the next round. Djokovic has struggled against Macek. Take over 36.5 games. Djokovic is not winning in 3. Yeah, he hasn't won in 3 sets in the first 2 rounds. And Macek just had a really long game last night, but he's got plenty of time to rest. These guys are going to be pretty equal. So you can take either 36.5 games over or take it to over 3.5 sets. Just expect Djokovic to not run through this guy. He hasn't looked like his normal dominating self. Alcaraz has changed his serve. It wasn't that great at first, but he steamrolled a guy in an hour and 20. And then keep an eye on Fonseca, up and coming 18-year-old. We bet on him in qualifying. He opened up as a minus 300 favorite in this round, and now he's like minus 600 versus a top 50 player. So the books are out ahead of him, but Fonseca is a good up and coming. And we hit our free play yesterday, so we're looking to continue the roll. 9-2 in the first round, plus 14 units for clients at the Australian Open.
Well, there we go. Andy Lang, everyone. He'll be with us tomorrow as well. Andy, thanks for doing this. Guys, no NHL free picks tonight. There's only 2 games on tap, so I've got nothing for you there. Gianni the Greek joining us. Gianni, I'm going to start right off the bat with the fact that we have got 51s out there for Buffalo. So this guy told everybody yesterday, if you're going to bet the under in the Buffalo game, bet it yesterday. And now we have 51s out there, so there's money coming in on the under. We have more money coming in on Kansas City. Detroit just keeps getting bet. And this Rams-Philly game is stagnant. Any thoughts on any of what I just said?
I'm interested to see where the resistance comes in on some of these teaser-protected favorites. Because now we're seeing at some of the sharp shops, Kansas City's up to 9. I mean, from 7.5, 8, 9. The key is 10 now. There's no difference between 8.5, 9, 9.5. The key is it going to get the 10? And based on what we've seen so far early in the market, it probably will. At least one of these two games should get there. The difference is, are we going to see any take back the other way on either of these dogs? Because we know playoffs, home field advantage is just so strong that it's really hard to overcome that. And I think that's why you're seeing those lines continue to climb. The one that surprised me a little bit is Baltimore still as a road favorite into Buffalo. I think that surprised a lot of bettors.
So I want to mention that because yesterday I told you there was a 1.5 at DraftKings on Baltimore, and there still is. And that's an important number because, well, welcome to the teaser discussion, Buffalo. So now we have Buffalo at DraftKings specifically over some key numbers. Gianni, is this all 4 teams here? All 4 teams you can get under and over 2 key numbers. It's like, what do? Do you go up on all of them? I mean, to me, my gut is to go up on all 4 dogs right now.
Listen, I can't blame you. Again, we haven't seen what the betting public's going to do. That money will not come in until game day. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Public money will overwhelm the books as opposed to sharp money. We see it in the playoffs. We see it in the Super Bowl, most notably the props, where have no problems at all shading those lines to give the sharp bettors some value to help limit some of the risk that they're going to get from the betting public. But here's what surprised me about the signs. Seeing some early action, Prez, because I get the peek into the back of sports books, and I see that bettors do this all the time. They do it in the regular season. They do it at the playoffs, too. They try to lock in some bets earlier in the week to see if they could have free action more or less on Saturday and Sunday. Here's what I mean. They have a play they really like tonight in college basketball. Instead of just betting a $50 straight bet, 55 to win 50, they're going to parlay it with their strongest bet on Saturday or on Sunday. If their bet hits tonight, now all of a sudden it's kind of like a free roll, more or less. They get that bet now for a lot more with less risk. And here's what I'm starting to see. I'm starting to see the dog money, actually. I've seen Houston. I've seen Washington, more Washington than I expected. I've seen Rams tied in. And more than any else, I've seen Buffalo. They're taking Buffalo, obviously, not even caring about the point. They're taking them at even money at plus 102, at plus 105. Buffalo continues to be tied into a lot of early week parlays. That usually is a precursor of what's to come. And it's surprising because usually, again, the bias of recreational bettors is favorite and over. But when you get to the playoffs, most of these teams are the top in both conferences. So being able to get close to double digits on some of these teams, I can't really fault the public for trying to what they see is the best of it. Because, again, we talked about it yesterday. 3.5 was the closing number in Kansas City just a couple weeks ago against this very same team. Now it's 9.5. The adjustment was 4 points up to 7.5. For the weather, for the rest, for the home field advantage, for the players returning for Kansas City. But now up to 8.5, you're talking about a 5-point line move from that close just a few weeks ago. And that's why I'm seeing that Texas money from the recreational bettors. It's going to be interesting to see when we get to Saturday and Sunday if that continues. Because if you missed those teasers, don't go and throw out those 7-point teasers now just to get it down through that one number. You're losing all the value. You have to sit back now and see, does it get back to where you can only use a 6-point teaser? Otherwise, let it go. We know in the playoffs, pick the winner, you're going to cash a ticket. This is the smallest round where that works. We know in the wild card round, conference championship, and Super Bowl, you're upwards of 85 or so percent, I believe. Pick the winner, you're going to cash a ticket. The divisional round's a little bit lesser than that. Closer to, I think, like 75%. Pick the winner, you're going to cash a ticket. But it does show that if the point spread is ever going to matter, this is probably the round of the playoffs it's going to matter. So I'm interested to see if these lines come back down or if we're going to see a wave of public money come in on these favorites come Saturday and Sunday.
Well, we still have 2 more days of talking about it. Gianni, Andrew Wadge, one of our best listeners, asks me to ask you if you like Ohio State, Detroit money line parlay. It equals a minus 200 bet.
I can't fault it. I can't fault it. You're laying though minus 200. I would look to see if Detroit comes down to where you could tease it. Like if it gets to 8.5, because I see 9s out there at some spots. So if it gets to 8.5, I would urge you to use that 6-point teaser to bring it down. Maybe even a 6.5-point teaser if it gets there, to bring it down below that number. Because laying 2 to 1, you got to remember, you got to cash that ticket 2 out of 3 times just to be profitable. So you have to conclude now that you're going to cash that 3 out of 4 times for you to think you have an edge. Both teams winning, Detroit at home, probably. Ohio State, they are the favorite. They've looked the best. I have them the highest power rated team. They should get it done. But seeing that sharp money has taken some Notre Dame, I've even seen Notre Dame money line, it gives me some pause because I have Ohio State future. So when I saw that, it did not make me feel good. I would have preferred to see them come in on the Ohio State side, but knowing there's some sharp money, seeing how that line's come down, why not wait? If you continue to get Notre Dame money, you'll probably get a better return on your parlay. And more importantly, you may get a chance to lock it in a teaser where you're laying minus 130, 120s, 140s, but a lot better than 2 to 1. That's my advice.
Just a couple of more minutes with Gianni the Greek. Gianni, Andrew Waj follows the question up with, to me, it should be minus 400. And I want to stop there, Andrew, and I want to say this to everybody listening. You guys are all savvy bettors. You take time out of your day to join us. It's not like you're just picking shit out of the air. You're not, Waj, FB, DT, all of these guys, Pezzi, everybody who is in this chat room every day lives inside of the world of betting. So if you think a line should be minus 400 and it's minus 200, just make the damn bet. You don't need to ask our damn opinion. Just make the freaking bet, Waj. You said it yourself. You're getting an incredible amount of value according to you. So make the bet. The other thing I want to make mention, Gianni, and this is really important. If 2 teams have a 60% chance of winning, that does not mean the parlay has a 60% chance of winning. Understand that there is a second component to the math equation. Team A has a 60% chance of winning. Team B has a 60% chance of winning. But it's not 100% that they both win or lose at the same time. So if 2 teams have a 60% chance of winning and you need them to both win to finish your parlay is under 60%. Please keep that in mind. Gianni, anything to add there?
No, it's exactly right. And that's why with the teaser, getting 6 points in the teaser, you got to hit over 70. I have the number behind me. Arbitrary. I know it's over 70% on a teaser at 6 points is what you have to hit the break even. And that's why using that 6 points, 3 to 3 and 7 gets you to about 72, 74%. Gives you a small enough edge, but it just goes to show you're absolutely right. Just because each team, the probability shows applied win probability 60, 65% doesn't mean combine them both together and that's what you get, that upwards of 80, 90%. It just doesn't just don't play out like that.
I don't actually know the math equation to take 2 60s, put them together. What do you get? I'm guessing it's around a 56-ish, but I don't know the math equation on that. Gianni, hoops, and then we got to call it a show.
Yes, sir. And please go to WagerTalk.com and check out my page. I've got a handful of tennis premium plays. I said I'm going low volume. I'm sticking to that. But when I have all this tennis stuff coming in, I got to use it. Long term, It's been so profitable. So I release them as 1% plays. That means 0.25 of bankroll. So that equals like 1.4% play. Here's college basketball really quick. Side, 731, Utah, +5, +4.5. 797, Kansas, +7. 733, Indiana State, +8.5 and +9. Total 748 under 150 Pitt, Florida State. 724 under 155 Penn State, Michigan State. I know Ralph likes that one. 712 under Cal UNC. Real quickly, I picked up a new bot. They just bet sides. UAB -3, Stanford +7.5, Georgia +12.5, Iowa State -5, Georgia +12.5, Oklahoma -2, IU Indianapolis +10, Duquesne +4. It's a new bot. It's there to just pick up rogue off lines. We'll see how it does. Just sharing that information with you. Follow, fade, ignore. I hope you do some damage. Best of luck today, this week, this month, this year. Thanks for having me on, Prez.
Love having you on. Freaking awesome. Gianni the Greek, everyone. Art to Caesar, if you're listening, I know you're not feeling well today. It's why you missed the show. Feel better, my brother. Lots of love. To the rest of you guys, thanks for watching. Shout out to Ralph, Andy, Gianni, and Dan. Lots of love, everybody. Let's kick ass. We'll see you tomorrow.